شلاملخ مريم مليف طيبوثة نارا عماخ مريخات المشي وموريخ بيت خرسري شو ناط مريم يلدت آلها صلح لابين حطاهي هاشا وشاق الموثين آمين.
Bueno, explicar lo que está pasando en Siria es un poquito difícil.
It's a bit difficult to explain what's happening in Syria because it involves everyone.
Metido todo el mundo en ella.
In the beginning, when everything started, these were all people who desired change and reform. But then an infiltration began. A manipulation of their objectives took place, of what they wanted to do, and riots began in the first few months. The problem was that those who rebelled took up arms, and it turned into an armed movement. And this armed movement later became an Islamist movement in its majority. And it has arrived where we are now. Because we're not only speaking about Syrians, but about many other foreigners who are in Syria. There are many combatants, thousands, from Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Yemen, Shishan, and also Europeans who have converted to Islam. In the first few months, the mass media, the Arabian mass media, above all in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, above all in religious channels, declared Syria a jihad territory, inviting youth to fight for Islam. There was a great manipulation against the Syrian people and against those youth. And it happened that they began with car bombs, assassinations, kidnappings, beheadings. And the government, the army, should defend its country. But here, word is spread that the government is killing its people. It's true, there are civilian victims, but it's because you have civilians who have taken up arms. And in other zones of the country, you have people who aren't civilians. They're, we could call them combatants. Apart from receiving financial support from Arabian countries, and training and support from the United States, and also from the European Union, European countries providing weapons. So Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and other countries pay, and Europe and the United States sell. And we end up where we are now. The life of the people, their faith, what they have in their hearts, I think it's the same now it was before, and I think now it's more so. But in the practice of the faith, before it was very different, because you could practice freely. In fact, when I was in Syria, I could always go to the church without any problem, at any moment. The churches were always open, and our lives were not in direct danger. It's true that there were, we might say, differences because we're the minority and we're Christians. But nobody harmed us directly. But now, going to Mass could mean death. In the zones that are occupied by jihadists or the Islamists, if you're a Christian, you have to convert or you die. We can certainly say that Christians from Syria and Iraq are living in authentic persecution. Because if you are a Christian and you're in a zone controlled by the Islamists, you have to convert to Islam or die. Or if you're a woman, they take you as a sex slave, or you have to pay money. You don't have the freedom to live your faith. And also in the zones that are not directly controlled by the Islamists. When I say Islamist, I'm not only saying the Islamic State. They say that there are more than 4,000 Islamic groups. Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, all those names are included. But also, for example, I'm speaking of Damascus. In our zones, we receive mortars daily, dropped on schools, churches, hospitals, civilian neighborhoods. They say to us, if you want to go to work, or to school, or to the church, you're acting in favor of the government. So you have to die. You're the same as them. I think that the Syrian Christians are very brave, and the Iraqi Christians also. And they are brave because that's how they are. I think the Holy Spirit supports us and accompanies us in everything, because if not, you couldn't continue forward. So the people are stronger and more firm in their faith. They don't leave the faith. Many don't want to leave. Many Christians don't want to leave because it's where Christianity began in Syria. Damascus is where St. Paul converted. So the people pray more, because personally, I and all the people that I know, we're certain that without a divine intervention, nothing can change. The intention could be for a change in the actions of the governments, for the people to whom they are harming, for the whole situation. It could be in any way whatsoever. Sometimes I think, oftentimes I speak about this with my friends, because we talk through Skype or WhatsApp. Sometimes there are people who have to suffer more for others' salvation. And God will never give you anything that isn't good for you or that you can't handle. So someday all of this will come to an end. But the faith continues. It continues forward. I think that war, as far as faith goes, is helping us to realize what we had, what we don't have anymore, and the new things that we have. Because before, the people didn't know that they were so courageous, or that Jesus is so important in their lives. So they're growing and there's more unity. And when I've been able to be with Europeans who know what is happening, who realize what is happening, their faith also grows. First, one must know that for a Christian, before the war, when you're a Christian, you are marked by the cross in everything you do. So being Christian is, as God tells us, by seeing your actions, they glorify God. We've always been taught, and we have always tried to be good examples for others. It's difficult for Christians to live in a Muslim country. Why? Because you're part of the minority. And even if there are good people and everything, when you apply for work and you're a Christian, you have fewer opportunities. In the schools and on the street also. And now the problem is more difficult because the Christians have always remained united and we're better off economically. So now we suffer more kidnappings. They kidnap Christians to ask for money. And not just one or two, sometimes entire families. And when there are problems at your job, sometimes they fire you instead of a Muslim. And also for your children. For example, I have my friends who are married and have children, and school is starting. They don't know if they should continue sending their children to school or not. And when a married couple leaves their home, they never leave the two together, so that if one dies, at least one will be left. If the mother dies, the father survives. The families never leave their house together, so that they don't die all at once. Going to Mass could mean the direct risk of death. If you're inside, they can attack you inside and kill you inside. There's the risk that a bomb is in the church. On the way there, you could be hit with a mortar. And sometimes they destroy your church. There are people, it's very beautiful what they've done. After church was destroyed in Homs, when it was liberated, they celebrated various masses, and they celebrated a wedding in a church that was destroyed. Because God is there, the altar is there, all the walls are destroyed, but God is there. And they celebrated the wedding to show that we continue on, we're not going to stop. Yes, I've lost several persons. The number continues to grow. At the moment, 14 people directly. One is my cousin, my godmother's son, who died. He was a young kid who died from a mortar. He was going to work. I also have two friends who for us are martyrs. In fact, they've been named martyrs of Christianity. They were crucified in Ma'lula with their father, and they were friends of ours. And others I know have died. I've also lost friends who aren't Christian, but we always surrender them as martyrs from all parts. May God accept them. The Christian community's reaction before death is joy. Because for us, as I have already said, that person is a martyr. Of course, we're very sad. There's lots of sadness. Above all, if it's a son, or last week, well, I don't know him personally, but there was a father who lost his son. The wedding was going to be in 3 weeks. He was engaged, a lawyer, and his father arrived. It gives me goosebumps because his father arrived at the funeral in his son's wedding suit. When I came, personally, due to the conflict, I can't go back. When I left Syria, Damascus, it was to study and later return to live and work in my city. And my family also. We have, but these are all material things. I lost a flat that I had, which was destroyed. My family has had to leave. My mother had a pharmacy, and they've threatened to burn the pharmacy down. My brother has lost his job, so has my sister. All of them have had to leave because we were left without economic resources. But God saved us and has helped us to make it to this point, and now we are doing everything anew. It supposes a lot more work for us, being far from our family members. When there's a tragedy, we aren't even able to hug our loved ones because we're far away. We're connected. We're very distant but connected. Above all, the effect of I can't go back now. My country, my city, my friends, all of my friends are dispersed throughout the world. I don't know when I'm going to go back. I would like to go back once. No, I'm gonna start crying again. I'd like to go back to my parish, attend Mass. I think what's happened with me now is that many things aren't important to me anymore, you know? I think you learn what's important. We can't have hearts that are embittered, because what we're going through is a lot less than what Jesus went through. When you're a Christian, you know that you have this faith, you know that there will be a persecution. violent or not, but you know that it's a difficult path. In Barcelona, it's pretty hard for me in my job to be Catholic, and I'm in a Catholic country. Later, you have strength that further along, and you always have to pray for those who do you harm. All of this persecution is not that they want to do it. They think they're doing things correctly. As Jesus on the cross said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." I can't hate. In fact, before, I was a lot more rebellious with people, sometimes disagreeable. It's true. And I was always very competitive in many things, right? I have to be the best. But later, you think you can do that, but with love. The Virgin Mary is our protector, our mother, and she is protecting us every day. Prayer, the rosary, is essential in our lives every day. If not once, more than once every day. We know that the Virgin is with us. We have a convent that's called Zetnaya, where there's an icon that Thomas made. An original. And there have been many miracles in this convent. Since its beginning until today, every day they're trying to penetrate this town, but the Virgin is protecting this Christian town. They've dropped various mortars in the convent. The mortar falls inside, and it doesn't explode. We live miracles daily. We know that she loves Eastern Christians very much, and she protects us. You can't live through a persecution without the Eucharist, and it's very difficult to receive it in Syria right now. Because if they destroy your church and drive you out, they prohibit Mass, and you have to celebrate it in hiding. I said this earlier, and I'm going to repeat it always. I feel that I don't deserve to be able to go to Mass whenever I want, and have a church on almost every corner. I can go at any hour, I can go every day if I want. During the time of preparation before Mass, or when it's over, my heart is with my people in Syria. Maybe they're desiring to receive the Eucharist, but they can't, you know? They have to risk their lives to have it, and here it's really easy for me. The current situation can certainly change. And we have the necessary weapon, which is prayer. We have to get together more to pray, and pray for the same objective, which is peace. But we can also do other actions. We can help people so that they can continue their lives in Syria without having to leave. And if they leave, we should receive them, because it's very difficult to be alone in these situations. But above all, for me, it's prayer, hopefully for everyone. And I think God wants all Christians to realize what's going on and be united for one cause. I invite everyone to look in the mirror and think that when they leave their houses, maybe it will be the last time that they leave their house. To place themselves in the shoes of the people in Syria. That when you go out and say goodbye to your mother, your wife, your father, all your loved ones, you don't know if you'll see them again or not. And when you don't go to Mass, think that maybe there are others who will have to die or risk their lives to go to Mass. That's all. And pray for us.